Aloha. Welcome to the Mr. G podcast. Today is Thursday, June 8th, 2023. This is episode 24. It's a cool, sizzling 77 degrees here on the outskirts of Chinatown in Honolulu, Hawaii, the biggest city in the Pacific. On today's episode of Mr. G podcast, we're going to be talking about game 3 last night of the NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets winning game 3 in Miami. And then we're also going to go over common expressions used in the United States compared to common expressions used in Great Britain. Some of you may know I'm dating a lovely, beautiful woman who lives in Manchester, England. She'll be on the podcast tomorrow, and we'll see if she knows some of these English expressions, and we'll see if I know some of these American expressions or vice versa. I'm in a really good mood today. Some of you are aware that I have a cat feeding operation here in the outskirts of Chinatown in Honolulu, Hawaii. And a lot of times it's very hard on the heart. You see what these street cats go through on a day in and day basis. They don't have much to look forward to. You see mothers giving birth to kittens on the street, and a lot of times the kittens don't make it. There's, it's really heavy on the heart, this job. It's every day, and there's no pay. But recently, just earlier, I went to go check on a tribe of kittens that I had, newborns that I had ran into that I had thought were orphaned because I had not seen their mother there, and they were on the other side of two different fences where I really couldn't get to them. I tried throwing some pate cat food to them, and they were like, "What the fuck is this?" And so I didn't think that they had a mother. But today, when I went to go check on them, I brought some milk and some cat food, and I saw that there was a mother cat there, and she was feeding them, breastfeeding them, and nursing them. And I was really happy. I'm like, "Oh, thank goodness," because I thought maybe I'd go and I'd find some, uh, some deceased infant kittens, but instead they were doing very well. The biggest one of the bunch, the one that I met initially, he came right out to the fence and was like, "Hey," and soon they'll probably start eating solid foods. But it was a really nice sight to see. Sometimes I might put too much on me, too much pressure on me, and I can't save every cat out there. I've spent thousands of dollars of my own money taking care of these street cats. I've gotten many of them neutered and spayed. Just about all of them in my current colony, are neutered and spayed, and giving them something to look forward to, like I said, and an otherwise bleak existence. But it goes both ways with me too. And an otherwise bleak existence, at least I have the street cats to look forward to every morning. And we also have my lovely girlfriend, Jim, to look forward to on tomorrow's episode. All right. So it's Thursday, 77 degrees here in Hawaii. The sun is shining bright in my eyes directly into the podcast here. The big news today, you might have heard it on national and world news, is the volcano erupted on the Big Island, Kilauea. It's erupted before. It's not that big of a news story here in Hawaii, but it seems like the national media likes to take pictures of the lava, and it is a very stunning sight, seeing the lava. The tallest mountain in the world is located in Hawaii, if you're measuring from under the sea to the sky as well. And also the largest active volcano in the world is also here in Hawaii. But here on Oahu, where 80% of the state actually lives, we don't have much volcanic activity. Even hurricanes, when they come here, they're usually protected by the Big Island. So they usually have the Big Island, which has, maybe 15% of the state population. They take the brunt of all the hurricanes. Any earthquakes usually come over there. And also, like I said, the largest active volcano is located on the Big Island. The only other islands that have volcanoes are Maui. So there aren't any volcanoes on Oahu. There's not that high elevation on this island. So there's not that change in temperature. If you see somebody wearing a jacket on Oahu, they're usually from out of town. If you see somebody wearing a black hoodie on Oahu, then they're a homeless person from the mainland, basically. Because nobody wears black hoodies. Some things in Hawaii and Oahu, I can say, are very rare, and you don't see anybody wearing them ever. One is a beanie, like a cotton beanie. You never see anybody wearing a beanie. When my twin brother came to visit me, maybe 7 years ago, I picked him up at the airport, and he had this like red beanie on, like Waldo, with his glasses and everything. And I'm just like, after a couple days, I'm like, hey, dude, nobody wears those around here. You stand out totally, you know. And also a black hoodie. You never see anybody from Hawaii wearing a black hoodie. I guess maybe on the Big Island or in Maui or in Kauai or something, but you wouldn't ever wear a thick black hoodie in Hawaii. It's just pointless because it's hot here, and especially on Oahu when there's no change in elevation. Hawaii has 12 out of the 13 climate zones, but the majority of those are on the Big Island when you go up in higher elevation. It snows in Hawaii every year, but only on the Big Island when you're at higher elevations, or maybe on Maui too. But here on Oahu, where 80% of the state lives, there is not any snow and there is not any high elevation. So normally we drink our coffee cold here. Other big news here in Honolulu, they're finally going to start opening up part of the rail in a couple weeks so people can actually ride it from the west side to the stadium. Big deal. The stadium that they closed down and that they don't have any events. So that's great for people that work the not the pawn shop, the flea market at the stadium every Saturday. So good for them. You guys can take the train. It's worth the $25 billion it's costing taxpayers. But not much you can do about that. Other news in Honolulu, without even checking the news, crime is bad. Crime is bad throughout the United States. They say criminals have become desperate. That's the expression you always hear. I think it's more criminals have become desperate because, marijuana is legal at the majority of the United States. So the average person doesn't have to go through a criminal circuit to obtain it. A lot of things you can find online. Criminals used to sit outside bus stations and they'd wait in major cities and they'd wait for people like to take the bus to Los Angeles or New York and to get off the bus and be all big-eyed and wide-eyed and, hey, I'm in the big city, and not know where their hotel is, not know where the directions are, not know anything, and like holding a fold-out map and everything. And that's a criminal's, licking their lips. Now somebody has a phone, they don't need to interact with people so much. If somebody comes and talks to you on the street, it's like, what the fuck? If somebody even asks you the time, the most common question for hundreds of years, what time is it? Now if somebody asks you what time is it, it's like, what the fuck? Are you trying to rob me? What time is it? Well, where's your phone? Or even that, or can I use your phone? Like, fuck no, you're gonna run off with it. If somebody asks to use your phone, immediately in my head, I'm like, all right, there's like a 50% chance or a 60% chance they're gonna run off with it. So no, I'm not gonna let you use my phone unless you're like an old lady or a kid or something. But even then, I'm like, there's a chance this old lady's gonna fucking knock me with her cane and steal my cell phone. So now things changed quickly and everybody's just catching up, and having any information in any song in any movie at your fingertips, and information is the biggest thing. This is the information age where information is at the touch of our fingers, generally, not for everybody on the planet, but for the majority, and soon for everybody on the planet. And with artificial intelligence and quantum computing, which there is a difference. Artificial intelligence, the best way to describe it is the software, and it takes all essays and journal articles and everything written on the internet, and it pretends it's a person, but it does a great job of it. Whereas quantum computing can actually think on its own. And they thought they didn't think AI was going to be as powerful and as game changing as it is. The experts thought that we would have to wait until quantum computers come out, which is in about 10 years from now. But AI is proving that they can do similar things that quantum computers are just going to be able to excel in even greater. So, and that's 10 years away, quantum computing. A lot of people get those two ideas mixed up, AI and quantum computing, quantum computers. Like I said, the best way to describe it, AI is the software that can go on any digital computer, and a quantum computer is a machine that can do things on its own. All right, talk about game 3 last night briefly. My prediction was right. I said, do not bet on game 3. And so everybody, if you listened to me last night, you didn't lose money. However, game 4, you do want to bet on the Miami Heat for game 4. They're probably, I haven't checked the line, but it's probably just the same line as game 3. Denver favored by 2.5. It may go up a point, it may go down a point. Denver by 3.5. But bet the Miami Heat on the money line. The Miami Heat might lose game 4, but if they do, it's going to be by 1 or 2 points. And I really believe that they can win game 4. I don't know if they'll win the series. I think they'll probably lose in 7. But I think Miami Heat will win game 4. Another betting tip while it's on my mind that I haven't mentioned yet is you follow the money. So, for example, on game 4, let's say the line starts off Denver favored by 2.5 points, and then you're like, okay, and then let's say there's 2 days until the next game, and then the next day the line goes up. Instead of Denver favored by 2.5 points, it's Denver favored by 4.5 points, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what Denver is favored by 4.5 points. And then the next day, right before the game, a few hours before the game, it goes up a couple more points, and it's Denver favored by 5.5 points, or Denver favored by 6.5 points. And then you look at it and you're like, wait a second, I've done my homework. Just a couple days ago, Denver was favored by 2.5 points, and now Denver is favored by 6.5 points. Don't ask questions. Follow the money. Vegas was not built on losers, right? There's something going on. The mob, they know things that you do not. And doing your homework, it does pay off, but you're not going to know everything. If you see a money line, if you see a betting line going up like that, like it starts off with Denver favored by 2.5 points. The next day, it's Denver favored by 4.5 points. The next day before tip-off, it's Denver favored by 7.5 points. Bet on fucking Denver because they know something that you don't know. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo are sitting out or something. There's something going on that you do not know because people are making money and winning money. If the line's going up, then people are putting money. Occasionally, you'll see that go up, and for some reason you bet on the other team, and you'll lose. But that's very rare. If you take your heart out of it and you're just using your head, every time you see a line go up or else line go down, like if it starts off Denver favored by 2.5, the next day Denver favored by 1, and then the next day Miami favored by 1, then something's up. Jokic is injured, or there's something that you don't know. So follow the money is also a betting trick that I've learned as well. All right, so game 4, bet on Miami Heat. I'm telling you, bet on them on the money line. If you want to play it safe, bet on them to cover 2.5 points. They could lose by, a game and a half. I mean, a point. They could lose at the buzzer or something like that. All right, now we're going to go over American slang and British slang. So in America, you say dude. In Britain, you say bloke. In America, you say flashlight. In Britain, you say torch. In America, a mobile home is a trailer. In British, it's a caravan. Okay. A toilet in America is a restroom. In British, it's a loo. Bonds where household waste is stored. Well, in Hawaii, that's rubbish. In America, mainland, it's trash. And in Britain, it's rubbish. The service which delivers letters to your house. In America, that's mail. In Britain, that's post. Fuel for a car. Gas in America. Petrol in the UK. The third season of the year when it starts to get cold. Fall in America, autumn in Britain. The part of the body you sit on. In the United States, it's butt, fanny, or booty. In the UK, it's bum. The hatch of the back of a car, a trunk. In the UK, it's a boot. A basket on wheels to carry groceries. My neighbors push shopping carts, but in the UK, they're called trolleys. Hand-pushed carriage for a baby. In the United States, it's called a stroller, but in the UK, it's called a buggy. The part of the street next to where the sidewalk, we're next to the road where people walk. The sidewalk, obviously, but no, in the UK, it's called pavement. Time away from school, vacation. In the UK, it's holiday. The grassy area behind a house, your backyard. No, in the UK, it's garden. That makes sense because my girlfriend's always saying she's in the garden, she's in the garden, she's in the garden. I guess she, apparently she means the backyard. A place that serves liquor, beer, and other spirits, a bar. In the UK, it's a pub. Being drunk. In the United States, you'd say somebody's wasted. But in the UK, somebody say is pissed. Story told with video, a movie. In the UK, it's a film. A public space where you go to watch the movies. It's called the movies in the United States. It's called the cinema in the UK. A sweet and crunchy snack is called a cookie in the United States. It's called a biscuit in the UK. Also, like cat food, the crunchy cat food is called biscuits in the UK. The sweet course at the end of a meal, that's of course dessert. But no, the sweet course at the end of the meal is a pudding in Britain. That makes sense too, because my girlfriend Jim was always like saying pudding, like, what are you having for your pudding? What's for tea? And I'll be like, pudding? What the fuck? She's always talking about pudding. Like, we never even ate pudding. All right, next. Sugary snacks, candy, sweets in the UK. Sticks of hot fried potato are French fries in the United States, chips in the UK. A purple black vegetable, very common in Hawaii, is an eggplant. But in the UK, they call it an aubergine, Aubergine, aubergine. Strong alcoholic drinks like vodka, gin, and whiskey are considered liquor in the United States. But in the UK, they're called spirits. Okay, so that was interesting. There's a couple more here. Clothing for your torso with sleeves is a sweater in the United States. In the UK, it's a jumper. What babies wear on their bottoms is, of course, diapers in the United States, but it's called nappy in the UK. I'd never heard of that. Shoes for playing sports are sneakers in the United States. In Britain, they call them trainers. Didn't know that. Women's underwear are called panties in the United States, but they're called knickers in the UK. Knickers do not sound sexy. Panties sound enticing and sexy. Knickers sound like something my 104-year-old grandmother would wear, like made of cotton that go up for the entire leg. Go and get your knickers. All right, last on the list, an item of clothing that covers the legs. In the United States, they're called pants. In the UK, they're called trousers. Get your trousers out of here. Your trousers are not that. All right, here are some expressions. In the United States, we say for the birds, which means worthless, meaningless, useless. Like my neighbors are for the birds. The phrase, they literally feed the chickens. The phrase dates back to World War II. Soldiers noticed that birds would peck at horse feces to look for seeds to eat. The original phrase contained a swear word. Don't worry about that. It's shit for the birds. Okay, so for the birds was originally, don't worry about it. It's shit for the birds. Jonesing, meaning have a strong desire or craving for something. Let's take a break. I'm jonesing for a nice cup of coffee. Coffee. Jonesing sounds like it might have something to do with the common American surname Jones. The truth is much darker. The term was originally used to describe heroin addiction. In the late 1960s, the word jonesing was invented to discuss the strong feeling of needing more heroin after taking one dose. All right, I knew that growing up, jonesing. All right, number 3, get my goat. I've never heard that. Meaning make somebody extremely angry, irritated, or annoyed. He got my goat. I almost shouted at him on the street, as an example. This is a fairly old-fashioned American slang phrase. It's quite funny that it sounds so cute because it's used to talk about fits of anger. Many people think this expression comes from a tradition in horse racing. In the past, it was normal for a goat to be placed in a horse's stable before the race. Goats have a calming influence on horses and were used to help them relax. If someone had got the goat, the horse would not have a little friend to calm it down and might become wild and twitchy. Hmm. Spill the beans. That's a common expression in the United States, meaning to reveal someone's private information or secret. For example, she already spilled the beans about the time of her sister's birthday party. There are a few theories on the origin of this phrase. One theory is that it comes from a voting process in ancient Greece. When faced with a decision, people made their votes by putting beans in a jar. A white bean for yes, a black bean for no. Hence, if anyone spilled the beans, the votes were lost for at least a messy pile on the floor. Interesting. In ancient Greek, they used to vote with black beans and white beans. A white bean meant yes, and a black bean meant no. That's very interesting. And then you count the beans at the end. Pass the buck, meaning shifting your responsibility to somebody else. For example, Ralph didn't want to do the paperwork, so he passed the buck to his assistant. That's a pretty common one, pass the buck. The phrase comes from the world of poker. Years ago, there was a tradition that poker players had a knife made out of a horn of a buck or male deer. The buck was placed in front of the person whose turn it was to deal the cards. If a player decided not to deal, he could pass the buck to another player, so it would be their turn instead. Interesting. If you're ever at an old-fashioned card game and somebody puts a buck antler in front of you, then you know that they're the real deal Holyfield, right? You know that's how they determine whose turn it is to deal. All right. Number 6, to take a rain check, meaning when you are unable to do something right now but want to politely decline the offer and do it later. I'm busy this weekend, so I can't meet for lunch. Can we take a rain check? The typical American phrase originated from a typical American sport, baseball, where it rained too much. A baseball game would be postponed for a later date. The ticket holders were given a rain check, which was a voucher to attend another match. So these are all American expressions. Tomorrow on the podcast, we're going to have my lovely girlfriend, Jim, and we're going to see if she has heard any of these, but these are really common in the United States. They're not so common in the UK. Number 7, to have a crush on someone, meaning a lighthearted way to say that you have a strong affection for someone. So they don't even know about that in the United Kingdom. They don't even know about having a crush on someone. For example, I think Daniel has a crush on Lisa. Did you see the way he blushed when she was talking? The etymology of the word crush in the romantic sense comes from way back in 1884 journal of Isabel Maud Rittenhouse, who wrote, Winty is weeping because her crush is gone. It had been suggested that crush may have been a variation of the word mash, because by 1870, mashed was a popular way of someone was in love, and to crush something was to mash it. All right, so those are the 7 common American expressions that that are not used in the United Kingdom. We have 7 English expressions that are used in the United Kingdom that I probably don't know a thing about, and I'm just going to read them, but I'm not going to read what they mean. All right, because what I'm just going to read what they're called. I'm going to try to guess what they mean. So number 1, we have bits and bobs. Okay, bits and bobs, I think that means like lots of different things, like you have a variety of things of bits and bobs. Number 2, taking the mickey. I think that means like admitting that you're wrong, possibly. I'm not sure. Number 3, Bob's your uncle. I have no idea what that could possibly mean. Number 4, to par or to par off. Well, on par is like even in golf. So when you're on par, you're like even with somebody else. So to par is mean like to make amends, I would say. Number 5, bog standard. I have no idea, that I could not guess that. Number 6, gutted. Gutted is like when you feel disappointed, everything is taken out of you, you have nothing left, I would say. Dole as dishwater. Dole as dishwater. Well, dishwater is not necessarily exciting. So if somebody's comparing my podcast to dishwater, I wouldn't necessarily take it as a compliment. All right. So yeah, these are 7 expressions I'm not familiar with. The 7 ones from the United States were all familiar to me. But these 7, like I said, from the UK are not familiar at all. Maybe you guys have heard them in the United States. Maybe you're watching in the UK. But yeah, the American expressions, of course, for the birds, jonesing, get my goat. I had not heard that one. Spill the beans, of course, pass the buck, take a rain check, and to have a crush on someone. I thought that was universal, that everybody knew those. But as far as the UK ones, we got bits and bobs, taking the mickey, Bob's your uncle, to par off, bog standard, guttered, and dull as a dishwasher. I don't know really what any of those mean, but we'll find out on tomorrow's podcast. Thank you all for listening today. One more thing, I just want to talk about John Hamm at the University of Texas. Earlier this week, we did a podcast on the top 100 most famous University of Texas alumni, and in the top 10 was John Hamm, the actor. He was in the top 10, but he only attended the University of Texas for a couple semesters. He didn't graduate, and he transferred to another school. He was listed as one of the most famous, exceptional Longhorns of all time. So I just wanted to find something briefly about his time at the University of Texas. And there isn't much. It says after graduation from high school in 1989, Hamm enrolled in the University of Texas. He was a member of the Upsilon chapter of Sigma Nu fraternity and was arrested for participating in a violent hazing incident. He later transferred to the University of Missouri. While a member of Sigma Nu fraternity at the University of Texas, Hamm was arrested for participating in a violent hazing incident in November 1990. He lit a pledge's jeans on fire, shoved his face in the dirt, and struck him with a paddle over his right kidney before leading the pledge around the fraternity house with a hammer claw around the pledge's testicles. The incident resulted in the fraternity being shut down. The pledge ended up needing medical care and ultimately withdrew from school. Hamm made a plea deal and completed probation under the terms of deferred adjudication, allowing him to avoid being convicted of an actual crime. The charges were dismissed in August 1995, 5 years after the incident, following the completion of his probation. Wow, what a fun guy, huh? John Hamm, hook 'em horns. All right. Thank you guys for listening. This is episode 24. I've been doing this podcast for 24 days, every day. This is how I normally sound. I'm not trying to sound sexy. I'm not trying to sound smooth.
If you want, I could talk like this.
Or maybe I could talk like this.
Hey, I can talk like this too. Hey. Man, motherfucker, I can talk any way I fucking want to.
Shit. Yo, I'm from Brooklyn. That's how I would talk. I can't do my New York. I'm from New York. What's up? I'm from New York. But the Mr. G podcast is available wherever you listen to podcasts. Listen to the Mr. G podcast while you're at work, while you're cleaning your home, while you're working out, while you're running. It's available on Spotify podcasts, Amazon podcasts, Apple podcasts is the best place. Also iHeartRadio podcasts and Google podcasts. Full episodes of the Mr. G podcast are uploaded in their entirety on Twitter and YouTube as well. Thank you guys for listening. And don't forget, stop in tomorrow. We're going to see what these English expressions mean. We're going to have an expert from living in Manchester, England, and she's going to break all this down for us. Later this week, we're going to do the top graduates of the University of Berkeley. When they say what's the best public school in the United States, it basically comes down to two: University of Berkeley and University of Texas. All right, everybody have a great day. University of California, Berkeley, I should say, and then University of Texas in Austin. Everybody have an awesome day, and go Heat. And Merry Christmas. And a Happy New Year.